all you literary legends and luminaries. I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Write Smart. Today we're tackling a tough book. It's Brooke Nevils' account of her sexual assault, which she states is what got Matt Lauer fired. It's called Unspeakable Things, Silence, Shame, and the Stories We Choose to Believe. This was probably the best book I've ever read on the subject of sexual assault and rape because it covers everything from the myths about rape to the power aspect in workplaces to victim blaming to all of those complicated dynamics that occur in rape cases. It's a tough read though. This is not the kind of book you're going to want to bring to the beach to read, but it's a must read. So this book would need a series of episodes to cover in depth, and so I'm just going to give you more of an overview. Nevils unravels her personal story about working at NBC, becoming an assistant for Meredith Vieira, and ultimately working in Sochi for the Olympics, which is where the initial sexual assault happened. Nevils unpacks her actions and decisions. She willingly went up to Matt Lauer's room. She had been drinking, all the stuff anyone who's ever been a victim of sexual assault does, like we are to blame for a man's violence against us. She does an excellent job at clearly writing about what she thought at the time and how she behaved. And even though in college I was the victim of a sexual assault, we tend to critique others' experiences and think, well, I would have never done that. And Nevils also explains that as well. Seriously, she covers every single aspect. What Nevils has done brilliantly in her book is shows you how the situation is usually very messy. Matt Lauer was the it man at NBC. The talent must always be happy and placated. This part was integral to her job. How does one function then in the workplace after something like this happens? Nevils reveals all of it and explains why she continued interacting with Lauer, why she texted him, and why she didn't do something about it sooner. And her responses were essentially classic textbook behavior, not the least bit unusual, but she only learns this later on during her research. Not only has Nevils written about her personal experiences brilliantly, but she also weaves in research and legal information and behavioral patterns of victims of sexual assault. Much of this I had read in various forms over the years, but she puts it all together and it just slaps you in the face to have all that information contained within the pages of one very well-written book. The concept she does an excellent job at describing is the superstar harasser, which is an actual term. For instance, the President of the United States, the respected movie director, the beloved actor, the renowned surgeon, you get the idea. That the complaints against these superstar harassers have a devastating ripple effect across the company, the hospital, the movie, what have you. They get away with it because they are superstars. You'll have to read the book to find out more. I've got to read you a part of the book so you can see how beautifully Nevils covers all the messy details of sexual assault and rape. And so here she's kind of going through a victim's response, and she's kind of paralleling it with domestic abuse. But take the same act of interpersonal violence and apply it within the context of a pre-existing relationship and everything changes. Let's say that it's my husband who slaps me. Just like the stranger, it's the first time he's ever done this to me, but unlike with the stranger, I'm not going to call the police immediately, nor am I going to promptly file for divorce. I've invested years of my life into my relationship with my husband. Our lives are intertwined physically, emotionally, and financially. He is the father of my children. It would be irrational to walk away from all of that when what happened could have been an aberration, a mistake, a misunderstanding. Even though he committed the exact same crime as the stranger, a physical assault, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that it was a one-time thing, something that he didn't mean to do or that can be addressed. I'll feel ashamed that it happened at all, and I'll wonder what I did to make him do it, even though I know there is never any excuse for assaulting a partner. Maybe I recognize that the situation isn't my fault, but I will still blame myself for having married a man who would ever hit me. I'll be too embarrassed to tell my friends and family because once I've told them, they'll never see my husband in the same way again, and I will lose even more control of the situation. They'll encourage me to leave, to go to the police, to get a divorce, and if I don't, they'll judge me. Or instead, they'll ask what I did to make him so mad, as though I must have deserved it. Even though the assault itself is the same and still unconditionally wrong, the existence of a relationship between the perpetrator and the victim changes everything. Now imagine that it's not a physical assault, but a sexual one. As we've seen, sexual assault by someone you know is confusing on every level. I'll be much less likely to immediately recognize the sexual assault for what it is. I'll blame myself. I'll try to reframe the incident as something I wanted or smooth it over or try to reassert control. If it's a relationship I can easily leave, if the perpetrator is relatively unconnected to my life, I probably will because there's little reason not to. But if he's someone I've invested in emotionally or someone I rely on professionally or financially, a person so entrenched in my life and community that I can't jeopardize the relationship, then I probably won't. Even if I immediately recognize what happened as a sexual assault, I will have to consider not only whether anyone will believe me, but how losing the relationship will impact everyone else in my life. If it means losing a job, a church, a school, or a part of my family, then that's all the more reason to convince myself that it wasn't a sexual assault in the first place. The context matters. It upends all our assumptions. The relationship between the perpetrator and the victim changes everything. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that is a lot to ponder, yet she does a wonderful job at putting such experiences and our confusing thoughts about those experiences into well-constructed, thought-provoking passages. Her book will make you think and question what you thought you believed about rape and sexual assault. It will make you rethink what you think of victims' responses to rape. It will even explain your own responses if you are a victim of rape. Powerful stuff. You will also learn about the media's role in their reporting of rape. You will learn how our memories are fallible and aspects of the Me Too movement. Nevils develops a lot about the shame we feel as victims of rape, the dangerous toxicity of keeping secrets, and even the language victims use to describe what happened to them. I became very distraught and passionate in that angry sort of way as Nevils described the cost of victims' livelihoods when such sexual harassment and assault happen in the workplace. The trajectory of their careers and successes are impacted beyond belief. You have to read this book. You will be smarter for having read it, and you will better understand human behavior, the legal system, the media, and a whole bunch more. I cannot stress it enough. This brief video of mine does the book little justice. You just have to read it for yourself. So let me finish this episode by reading a short paragraph toward the last part of the book. Nevils dreamed of being a star journalist. She wanted to be like the next Meredith Vieira. She's really hard on herself throughout the book that she's failed in so many ways. But her book, this is her masterful piece of journalism. No, it wasn't in the form of TV, but the print version will outlast any video, at least in my opinion. So let me read to you what she wrote about this aspect. The book you are holding in your hands is my survivor mission. It's an attempt at restitution for my failures as a journalist. It's an act of atonement for my complicity in Matt's abuses and to those I hurt. More than all of that, it is a mother's desperate, determined effort to do all that she can to ensure that none of this ever happens to her children or anyone else's. It has consumed years of my life, and just for the mere possibility of change, it has already been worth it. And I have to say, as a survivor of sexual assault, I would like to personally thank Brooke Nevils because thanks to her book, I understand myself better and my actions better and my decisions better. I imagine the book would do the same for so many others. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Write Smart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.